Hey everyone, it's Raj from 3CB. Been a minute since I did one of these videos, just been a little bit busy with a lot of things, but we'll try to get back to doing these, especially as the Premier League season and European competition picks back up. Today's video is looking at specifically Thomas Partey and early days. There's been a lot of chatter about kind of where he is in terms of his physicality and just his play in general and where that may be headed. So let's try to go back to the start. Firstly, you have a player in Partey, right, who of course is getting older. He's also coming off multiple seasons where he's dealt with multiple injuries, including last season, with limited game minutes. Now, generally, whenever you have a player like that, you're gonna expect a longer runway for that player to get back to 100% fitness, confidence, and match rhythm. I think we certainly saw that in preseason with Partey, especially with his legs. I thought, and this isn't 2020 because I said the same thing on social, I thought he was really pacing himself in preseason to help himself find that fitness. That's not uncommon for a player who has been dealing with injuries to then gradually ramp themselves up, especially during preseason where you're trying to really find your legs and regain that mental and physical sharpness. Further, we've seen with Partey when he's missed matches, it does take him a good number of minutes in matches to really find his rhythm. I think we really saw that sharpness on the ball versus Villa, but considering the amount of space he's asked to track and the fact that most teams now versus Arsenal are set up to beat them in transition, so there's a greater microscope on that, I think that just puts more pressure obviously on Partey to be able to cover those spaces, especially with how far up now Declan is moving at times in that advanced left-hand side profile. So there are multiple reasons for why Partey, might still be gradually uptaking his fitness, and there is potential room there for growth, for more upside during the season as he finds that rhythm and sharpness. However, considering the fact, like we said, he has those injuries, he is getting older, right? It's not uncommon for players to lose some level of physicality, some balance, some athleticism, some pace, etc., right? Currently in his state. But with that also comes a period of having to recalibrate your decision-making based on your present rather than the player you used to be. And I think we really saw that this past weekend when Partey was going up against Morgan Rogers, who was an absolute load. And we saw Partey still coming in really, really tight and giving himself kind of the low margin that he used to play with versus a player in Rogers who still has all those full attributes, and it led to him being done on multiple occasions. And that recalibration process, if it ever happens, certainly does take time. In Partey's defense, Rogers even did Declan Rice multiple times, which you rarely see. That also may speak to some fatigue on Rice's part. I think we've also seen Saka being handled by Arteta following the Euros in a manner that does speak to some of that fatigue. But just in general with Partey, there's going to be that recalibration process as he kind of reconciles the player he is currently and who he believed he used to be. Again, that takes time. That being said, I think it's also part of the calculation here with Arsenal, Edu, and Arteta, why they brought in, a player like Mikel Merino who can play that left-hand side profile, allow Declan now to shift back into that deeper line holding midfielder. So now you have multiple options there to be able to play. This Villa game, I was actually quite nervous for, because I felt the midfield personnel was less than ideal. This was, in my opinion, very much a Merino game. Obviously, he wasn't available to play, but just considering the type of physicality that they have in transitions and the fact, I think, in my opinion, Merino platforms Martinelli much better on the left-hand side. It was a game I was quite weary of. I thought we saw that play out, especially as Partey got more gassed out as the game went on. Around 60-minute mark in both matches thus far, he has gotten gassed, something to be just to take note of, and again, not uncommon considering he's still rebuilding his match fitness. In the Villa game, of course, Trossard's goal, which was preceded by Raya's incredible save, changed that entire match, but it could have completely gone a different way as well. I think a key part of that was due to Partey fatiguing out. Jurgen Timber also was fatiguing out, which also makes sense, right? Coming back from that ACL reconstruction. So all in all, I think I understand both sides of the coin when it comes to some of the debate over Partey. In my opinion, he's not near 100% match fitness and rhythm, so he's not the player we're going to see if he gets minutes. But at the same time, I do believe he has lost some of that ceiling just due to the aging process, due to how many injuries he's had, and therefore, it's going to be somewhere in the middle. But at the same time, it does look like Arsenal have addressed some of those concerns by bringing in Merino at the 8. And of course, Declan can play all over the pitch, which is part of why his versatility and part of why he's such an excellent player. So it looks like Arsenal are able to contend with some of the issues we've seen from Partey while still allowing him to build up his fitness and rhythm. And then if an injury does come, they now do have some certain options to be able to play without Partey on the pitch.